Hello everyone, so today I'm going to be comparing the Sony CyberShot DSC-WA30 versus the Sony CyberShot DSC-WX500. Now, one of these cameras is actually better than the other, but I wanted to do this comparison since both of these cameras are at a different price point. So you'll have an idea of what you're getting for a lower or higher price. Now this WA30 is the cheaper one, and the WX500 is the more expensive one. So for this comparison, the WA30 will always be on the left side, and I have it here in the silver color. And the WX500 will always be on the right side, and it's in black. So that way they don't get mixed up and we know which one is which. Before we continue the comparison, I want to mention one big difference. And I only remember this while editing the video. So the Sony WX500 has Wi-Fi and NFC, near field communication. And that means that you can transfer photos and videos to your phone or tablet, or remotely control the camera using your phone or tablet. Now the Sony WA30 doesn't have this feature. So if you want to transfer things, you have to do it the old way of getting a cable and plugging it in to your phone, laptop, tablet, or removing the SD card and inserting the SD card into your computer. Now let's go back to the video. So first, let's take a look at the design. So the WA30 is thinner and smaller than the WX500. Here's the side profile. And in terms of weight, it's also lighter. If you look at the WX500, you'll see that the lens protrudes more. And this is normal since this camera has better zoom than the WA30. So turning both cameras on, let's take a look at the lenses. And again, the WX500 is on the right. So if we fully zoom on each camera, you can see that the WX500 has a longer lens and larger body, and that's reasonable since it has better zoom capabilities than the WA30. Now the WA30 is a cheaper camera, but it still has a really solid zoom. It can zoom up to 8 times optically, and with the WX500 it can zoom up to 30 times optically. Plus, each camera can zoom in further using digital zoom. It's also called clear image zoom since the images are still clear after zoomed in digitally. Taking a look at the front of each camera, there are a few differences. So since the Sony WA30 is part of the W series and the WX500 is part of the WX series, they have different designs. The Sony logo is over here on the left on the WA30, and on the WX500 is over here on the top right. So there's a bit of a difference in the layout. Both cameras have a laser autofocus right next to the lens, and the flash is in a different location. So on the WA30, the flash is over here, so it's just exposed like that. And on the WX500, you actually have to pop out the flash to use it. So there's this little lever, and that's where the flash comes out. In terms of flash size, they're pretty similar. There's the flash module. The only difference is that it pops out like that, and you have to manually retract it. With the WA30, you don't have to do that since the flash is just right there. Now let's have a closer look at the image sensors. So on the WA30, since it's a cheaper camera, the image sensor is smaller. On the WX500, it's larger, and that's to be expected. There is also a difference with the lens. So the WA30 has a Zeiss Vario Tessar lens, and the WX500 has a Zeiss Vario Sonar T lens. And what this means is that the WX500 has a T coating applied onto the lens, and that helps reduce reflections, ghosting, and lens flares. So I did try using both of these cameras, and I took a video recording at the sun, and on the WA30 you may see some lines because of the lens flare, but on the WX500 you don't see any of those because of the coating, so that makes a huge difference. Next, let's take a look at the buttons and display. So here's a look at the top of each camera. On the Sony WA30, there are a few scratches since this camera is actually pretty old and I've been using it for a long time. But over here we have the on and off button. It's just similar to the WX500. Then we have the shutter buttons. Now each shutter button is different. So on the WA30, we have this type of shutter button. It's like a rectangle, and you can just press it to focus and press it harder to take the picture. On the WX500, it's a circle, and we have the same capability. Press lightly to focus and press all the way to take the picture. But the difference is there's a zoom rocker on the circular one. So on the WX500, you can zoom right here, zoom in and zoom out. On the W830, the zoom is over here. We have these buttons, so telephoto and wide. And overall it works the same, but you just hold it in a different way. So this is what the W830 looks like. Here's my shutter, power, and zoom. And on the WX500, we have power, shutter, and the zoom. Now one other difference is the WX500 comes with a dedicated movie button. So if you're gonna take movies, the movie button is over here. There we go. It's in red. Let's dive deeper into the control panel. So on the WX500, there's a dedicated mode selector. It's this dial over here, and you can twist it to change the modes. Just like that. It's a bit hard. But on the W830, since it's a cheaper camera and it's designed for the basic user, we don't have that mode selector. If you want to change the mode, you have to go to the menu and then change the mode over here. Intelligent Auto, Program Auto, and you can just use this button to select it. So because it doesn't have a mode selector, to change between photo, panorama, and video, you can just use this one. This is a little slider here. Now on both cameras, the navigation buttons are also different. So on the W830, it can go up, right, down, and left. And we have the center button to select, just like your TV's remote control. But on the WX500, it can do the same thing, but there's an additional scroll wheel. So we can rotate this scroll wheel, and this is really good for scrolling through things or navigating through the menus. So it makes everything easier to use. Now, in terms of the buttons, the WX500 has more usable buttons. So we have a function, playback, and a help guide, where on the W830, it only has a trash can, or delete button, and playback. So there's no button for a help guide, it doesn't have a help guide, and there's also no function button. So you cannot assign any quick functions. Now let's take a look at the displays. So on the W830, we have a smaller display, and the display is attached to the body. So it doesn't swivel around, it doesn't rotate, it doesn't move. It's just like this. So if you want to take pictures, for example, you want to take a selfie of yourself, you can't see yourself because there's no display. And if you're at a lower angle or higher angle, it's pretty hard to see the display because it's tilted. But on the WX500, the display can move. So if I want to take a lower angle shot, I can tilt it. And now you can see my ceiling. There we go. And I can also easily take a selfie like this. There we go. You can take a selfie, or it's also really useful for vlogging. And I think vloggers will really appreciate this camera since it has this type of display. It's really good to frame your shot and see yourself. Or if you're making a YouTube video like me, you can see if your products are in focus. So it's pretty cool. So let's go over some of the specs. So on the Sony W830 has that Zeiss Vario Tessera lens, 20.1 megapixel image sensor, and 8 times optical zoom. On the WX500, that's a Zeiss Vario Sonar lens, 30 times optical zoom, and an 18.2 megapixel image sensor. There we go. Now in terms of video recording capabilities, the W830 can record 720 video, and 720 is already HD, so keep that in mind. Now the standard video on YouTube is usually 1080, and this WX500 can record 1080. Now 1080 is full HD, full high definition. So you can either have high definition on the cheaper one or full high definition on a more expensive one. Now the reason why I'm comparing these is since they're at a different price point, and in my country the W830 is around $200 US, and the WX500 is around $400 US. So this will hopefully help your buying decision if you want to buy one of these cameras. If you're a basic user or you want to take pictures of your friends or family and make home videos, then I'd recommend buying this W830. But if you want to make YouTube videos, then I'd recommend buying this WX500. If you want to see a more detailed video or tutorial about these cameras, then I have lots of videos about those. You can find them in my cameras playlist on my YouTube channel. And I also reviewed each of these cameras, so feel free to check those out. And also, you may leave a comment or question down below if you need help with anything. And please like and subscribe for more and help support my channel. So, thanks for watching.